Hey everybody, this is Aaron from Aaron's Audio Corner, and I really like being able to just jump on here and do live things really quick while I'm thinking of it. Normally there's a lot of stuff that's going on in my brain regarding my personal life and my website, my reviews, all these things that I'm doing in the background. And whenever I start thinking about them, I want to go post them, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to take the time to do that. So I posted a review today for the Polk XT speakers. And I had a couple requests, and this is typical, you're right. Normally, when I post a review, somebody will get inspired or they'll get their brain jogged and think of, hey, I wonder what this thing is, or wonder how this would turn out. Would you be willing to review it? And for the most part, I'm pretty open to reviewing just about whatever. There are certain things that I'm not really interested in personally, and there are some things that I don't think really are going to benefit the community as a whole, and I don't want to spend my time on those. But what I'm here talking about right now is going to be very, very brief. And it's just to say that when you make a request for me, that's fine. But also consider reaching out to the manufacturer, because I've run into a lot of cases where I have pinged a manufacturer and asked specifically about something. I'll name names: Focal, Paradigm. There was a company this week. Gosh, I'm forgetting now. And there's been a couple others in the past where I've gotten to a certain point and then I hear nothing back. And when you're talking about speakers that are kind of up there in that range, that's just so far out of my ability to be able to buy it myself. The Polk XT speakers that I've tested, some of the center channels that I'm about to review or just have reviewed and about to do a video on, the budget 12-inch subwoofers that I reviewed a few months back, I paid for those all out of pocket and then turn around and sold them to make up some more money, to put the money back in my pocket. But that's a few $100 here or there, and that's okay now and again. But when you're talking about speakers that are $1,000 per pair or 2,000 or 3,000 and going on, there's just no feasible way for me to be able to afford that. And in those cases, I rely on you, the viewer, and the manufacturer. And some manufacturers have been perfectly fine to work with me. They've been willing to send me stuff, and it's not been an issue. Kef, SVS, I've got some stuff for Arendelle. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Just this week, and I'm getting some stuff from Kef next week. Let's see here. I just ordered a couple things from. Well, I don't want to spoil anything. So anyway, I've ordered stuff. I've gotten stuff on loan from manufacturers, but there are cases where it's just too far out of the norm, out of my budget to be able to afford it. And what I encourage you all to do is, when there's something that you're interested in seeing me test, for sure let me know, because if it's on my radar, then I can let you know if I'm going to test it or not. But also ping the manufacturer, email them, tag them in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, and just say, hey, I'm interested in this speaker. Would you be willing to send it to Aaron at Aaron's Audio Corner and have him review it? I don't know that it's really going to work. I'm not even trying to say that it's going to light a fire, but what I am saying is that if enough people do that, I think that manufacturers will be more willing to do that, because otherwise they just see this random guy on the internet and they say, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. We're not going to send him any product, especially because I only have like 15,000 subs, which I'm proud of, but in the grand scheme of things, there's so many people with way over 100,000, and they're obviously going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're going to send them something because it's a marketing machine. Let's be real. There's also the aspect of some manufacturers may not want data. They may not want that kind of review that I provide out there. But if they see that consumers are wanting that and consumers need that in order to validate a purchase, they may be more willing to send something to me to allow me to review it. So again, it's not about me asking for free stuff, because every time I get something on loan, I always ask if I can use it on loan, and then I'll send it right back. There's been a couple cases where I have been told by the manufacturer just to keep it. Matter of fact, the Edifier MR4s that I reviewed, I just posted the review for a few days ago. I emailed them after I posted the review and said, where do you want me to send it to? Can you provide me a shipping label? And they said, don't worry about sending it back, because it's not worth our time. So I actually just gave those away on my Patreon this week, and I'll be shipping those out to their new owner sometime this coming week. But yeah, really all I just wanted to make this video about was, when you ask me to review something, also ask the manufacturer. If you all can be a little bit more proactive in that regard, that will help me, that will help you in the long run as well. And that's that's it. Like I said, it wasn't going to be a long time. And let's see, I've got a couple comments. I'll just check those real fast because I don't want to ignore everybody. Tristan and Speaker Brands are scared of measurements. That's certainly true to an extent. I've It's kind of weird how some manufacturers will reply to me initially when I say, my name is Aaron, I run this website and this channel, and this is, the kind of reviews that I do. And I've had people ask me about XYZ speaker. Would you be willing to loan it for me for review? And I'll always say loan because I'm not taking the stuff. And honestly, even if they gave it to me, where else am I going to put it? I just don't have the room in this house. So I'll get an initial reply back and they'll say, well, let us get back to you. And then I don't hear anything. And maybe a month or two goes by and I'll forget, then I'll remember again and I'll ping them again and I'll kind of get the runaround or just I'll get ghosted entirely. And that's kind of the norm, but there's also a lot of good companies out there. I mentioned a few earlier, and I definitely want to give them props for being willing to allow somebody to show the full picture of what their product is through measurements. They're not hiding behind a product or, paid ads or anything like that. And I do appreciate those that are willing to send stuff out, not just to me, but other objective-based reviewers as well, like Stereophile Magazine. When they get those, they provide objective-based measurements as well. So I think when we're able to get that for the community, we all really win. Even if the measurements may not look great, at least you have a better understanding of what it is. For example, if it's a speaker you like and the measurements don't look great, well, you understand maybe what you like about it, or you understand some areas that you could improve the performance on. And we all really do win from that. Let's see here. Would you like us to ask on your behalf? Yeah, just ask me first, but yeah, certainly. I think that really this is a community effort. I don't mind for the most part spending time measuring stuff because it's fun for me. This is a hobby for me, and I'm probably going to be doing this stuff even if I didn't have the YouTube channel. This all kind of came secondary to me because I was already doing all the measurements and stuff in the background, and I thought, well, I think I could fill a niche somewhere in that YouTube area with just more objective based reviews. So that's what I wanted to do, and that's really the same thing I'm trying to do today. Yeah, we need more subwoofer tests. I agree, but there's just certain weather issues that I have to work around. So when it's cold out, when it's rainy, there's nothing I can do about it. And in the wintertime here, I'm kind of limited by that. Thanks for your work. Center speakers were something that was needed. Yeah, no, I agree. And I plan to do a video on that soon to kind of recap a lot of what the measurements are, and not really a shootout per se, but a better understanding of the limitations of typical center channel designs and things to look out for, maybe things to avoid, just overall a better understanding of how they work and how they work best, in regards to seating and things like that. So pay attention for that. Hopefully that'll come in the next couple weeks. Let's see here. My take on room acoustics, I have acoustic panels and things like that, but that's not something I would really want to get into off the cuff. I think if you're going to use absorption, that needs to be used in the right way. I think broadband absorption is probably the best, assuming that you have a speaker that has good horizontal dispersion. There's a theory that speakers with bad horizontal dispersion are better suited with panels on the side to capture those first reflections. I don't know if that's necessarily more so the case with bad speakers than they are with good speakers. I tend to fall to the side of just letting a good speaker do its thing in a room within certain limitations. Like if you want to use bass traps or Helmholtz resonators to capture particular frequencies, and that really helps more with multiple seating placements, like in a home theater setting, as opposed to maybe using equalization. But if you have enough subwoofers placed strategically throughout the room and you have equalization, then you can do a lot that way too. Let's see. The Clipple's most powerful is yeah, like I said, some do, some don't, and that's really where I'm kind of calling on the community out there to say, hey, I'm interested in your product, but I'm not willing to purchase it until I have a better understanding of, how it's going to be useful for me. I'm not saying that you can completely eliminate all subjective listening. in lieu of having data. That's never been my stance at all, just for what it's worth. My stance has always been more information so you make a better purchase decision. And then when you make that purchase decision, you can narrow it down to a few instead of having 10 or 20 that you're looking at and you don't know where to go and you have, analysis paralysis. Wavecore, I think I've used Wavecore before, like way back when I had Medley Musings, but I don't recall. JTR, that's a good question. Matter of fact, I pinged, so I got JTR speakers, the Noesis HT, I think it's the 210. I got those back in October. I did some measurements, and my measurements were not correct. And they were correct, but I did a limited set of measurements, and then I sent it off to Jeff at JTR, and I said, hey, take a look, tell me if this looks right. And he said, no, it doesn't look right. And I said, well, I understand why. Let me remeasure. So then I did another round of measurement, 3,800 sets or 3,800 points of data. It was a full 12 hours to run the results. It looked exactly like it should have looked, based on what his design was. I sent it to him, and then I kind of dropped the ball, I think. I just forgot about it after I got back from vacation. And I actually sent him an email a couple of weeks ago just to say, hey, where are we on this? Does this make sense? Because it's a one-off design, or it's, I guess, maybe not a one-off, but it's leading into production. And when you're building stuff by hand, I want to give the manufacturer, the benefit of the doubt there. And I don't mind letting a DIY type manufacturer see the result, because when they're working with measurements, sometimes their measurement system may not be as robust as the Klippel. And since they're not making, large scale mass produced product, I think it's best suited for everybody, for the manufacturer to make sure that what he's getting in the product is exactly what he intended to get versus, his own measurements. And in that case, I think we nailed that down, but I just haven't heard back from Jeff. So maybe I'll ping him again this week just to see where he's at, because I don't know if he was maybe wanting to change up the design a little bit. That was something that he mentioned at first. So yeah, I'm not really sure. And honestly, I'm not even sure if that's a design that he's still going to go with. He may have changed his mind. So that's the thing about a more DIY type company, as opposed to something like a KEF or a JBL or something like that. So that's just my 2 cents. There are plenty of DIY. Yes. So I have put out an open call, an open letter, if you will, to DIYers in general, and said, hey, I'm willing to help you make your product better if and only if it's not something that you're going to make money off of. Because first of all, I don't want to feel like I'm being used for my time, and I don't want to say expertise, but really that's kind of what it is. If it's going to be a DIY design for the community, that's what I want to help with. I want to help with something where somebody's come up with a really cool design and they publish the build out there. You can pull up the plans, you can click a link and go straight to the parts and buy what you need, and you can build it yourself, as opposed to having a DIYer who is saying, well, let me make this little tweak, and then they run off and sell the plans and they sell the kit. They make money, and then I'm the one that basically did all this work. I just feel like I'm taken advantage of. I'm not saying that I want to get paid. I've made the point plenty of times that I am not an R&D for anybody. But in the case of some manufacturers, like I just mentioned with JTR, in those cases, I want to make sure that the product is as intended. Same thing with the March speaker. Alan March had his measurement set up, and it was a little bit off of what the near field scanner was showing. Alan sent me his measurements and said, this is what I was planning to get. I'm not sure why I'm not getting it. So we worked together on that to try to understand his measurement system. He's fixed that through my measurements. So that's a win-win for everybody. And that didn't make me feel like I was doing R&D. That made me feel like I was actually helping to contribute to the community as a whole with a better product. So to me, that's a little bit, not even a gray area. To me, I can understand how some people might consider it a gray area, but it's my time. And if I deem it's helpful to the community as a whole, then I'm going to put my time into something like that. So yeah, again, with the DIY folks out there, hit me up. I'm more than happy. Matter of fact, I just contacted a fellow a couple days ago who's going to send me one of his little bookshelf speaker designs, and I think it's really cool. And I would like to be able to measure it, because he has measurements of his own out there. It's using a BMR, the Tectonic BMR little 2-inch speaker that I reviewed a few years back. And I can't remember the mid-woofer, mid-bass drive unit, but I think it's neat, and I wanted to help him out and let people in the community know that there's this other little thing that's out there that you can play around with on the weekend as a project. Because that's the other thing too is, as a dad, um, I know there's a lot of parents out there that are looking for something to do with their kids. And this flat panel little thing that I was playing around with earlier this week with the foam board and the tectonic transducer, to me, that's a neat, cheap little project that you can play around with your kids, your family, or whatever, and just, for 20 or 30 bucks, have a good time over a weekend and learn a little bit about science too. And you can help teach them going forward and get our kids thinking logically about stuff. If I do this, what happens? So that's part of the reason why I like doing that stuff as well. Let's see here. Okay, so really, just to wrap things up, I really wanted to make this more about, if there's something that you want me to test, please take the time to reach out to the manufacturers yourself. You can tag me, you can tag them, whatever. Just let them know that you're interested in seeing data, and that without the data, it makes it harder for you to justify the purchase. Because if you're waiting on me to do it, there's just some things that I'm just never going to be able to review. Especially when you start talking about pricier stuff, that there's just no way that I can afford to test it, because I would lose, $1,000 or $2,000 and try to turn around and sell it. I'm going to lose some serious money in the long run. And there's a lot I'm willing to do, but there's only so much that I'm able to come out of pocket. And that's really where the patrons come in. That's where the contributions come in. That you guys have helped me afford to do a lot of the things that I've been able to do, and I certainly appreciate it. But I just want to stress that there's some stuff that I would love to be able to test. And when you ask me, I would love to be able to do it. But if you contact the manufacturer, it's probably going to make it easier on me to be able to get that product in my hands to test it for you. So that's it for me. Once again, I really appreciate all of you watching. I appreciate your time. Arendal speakers are currently testing. I've been listening to them. Pretty darn nice speakers. Incredible build quality, in my opinion. The little 1964 or 61 bookshelf speaker, I mean, it's itty bitty, but it's a great little speaker. I'm really impressed with it. We're going to see what the tower results look like. I'll post all that up, sometime in the coming weeks. So stay tuned. The center channel comparison review discussion is going to be coming up, probably the next thing. And until then, I will talk to y'all later. Peace.